Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome back to another show. It's the NBA Finals. We are through two games as of recording this. It is Monday, June 9th. The Pacers have won once. The Oklahoma City Thunder have won once. And yeah, it's been very exciting watching these teams. I don't know if anyone's watching. Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I love the NBA Finals. Like, I'm having a great time watching this. I know game two. Yeah, I think the Thunder were up 19 at halftime, but there's still like the sick, morbid part of you that's watching. You're like, well, maybe, just maybe. There's like 4.5 minutes. No, I think there's 2.5 minutes left. And at that point, Dagnall unloads his bench. Everyone out there is a bench player. I don't know what the lead is at that time, but it's pretty big. And I'm still like, I'm not going to turn this one off yet, like just in case something goes nuts here. But of course, the Pacers' magic kind of ran out from game one. So regardless, like I said, I'm still very much enjoying these finals so far.
Well, I think we have to start at the juiciest of possible places to start, which is we have a 1-1 series. The Thunder defense has been as advertised. I think, as we saw in the latest video breakdown of this game, they have done what we expected them to do against this Pacers offense. The Pacers offense and just the team, I think you have to give credit with some of their shot making and some of their, we've used the term like magic. I mean, they have a lot of guys that will just be like, nah, man, I'm going to hit 7 straight threes. Like, you know, as Billy Raftery would say, the onions, you know, they have a little chutzpah. And I think you have to give them credit for that and bake that in. Like, they can do that throughout the series. But man, Oklahoma City's defensive matchup and the different looks they can give them. And really, when I look at the film, I think the Pacers have continued to have their best success against Isaiah Hartenstein in actions. And when he's off the court, it's like, I don't know where, I don't know what you pick away at to get something working. I do think, and we'll talk about later, that when they go back to Indiana, they're probably going to have a few other things up their sleeve that they go to try to start finding ways to get better shots. But man, I mean, that's been the thing that's jumped out to me. And yet it's a 1-1 series. So Cody, I think the big question is, like, do you feel, as someone who thought OKC was a big favorite coming into the series, do you feel like the Pacers have a good chance to win this, or are they still kind of just, you know, looking for haymakers to try to land some random, what do they call it in boxing, just the puncher's chance?
Let's I'm gonna put a pin in something. What's some like good, like, top floor business speak when we're gonna circle
you want to
back.
table it. You're gonna table it.
We're gonna put it in the parking lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of euphemisms we can use. We're gonna do something with the Hartenstein conversation because I want to bring that up. So remember that. I know between us, I think we'll be able to pull it off before the end of this hour.
We're never gonna remember to come back to the
Hartenstein point's never coming up again. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if this is gonna be offensive to people. I'm a possible worlds guy, right? Like, something happens and
what's going on?
Think, like,
possible worlds. What?
Like, how often is this going to happen? How far did we stray from how things should have actually turned out? And I'm of the opinion that if you take game one and you replay game one 10 more times, the Thunder win all 10 of them. Legitimately, all 10 of the other ones. Like, I went back and I rewatched the fourth quarter, and it's just, were the Pacers playing some great basketball and doing some good stuff? Yes. But there were a lot of threes that were being thrown up where I'm like, that was just a really tough shot. And some open shots for the Thunder weren't falling. And if you just change a couple of things here and there, they don't take that away. So I'm still of the opinion that the Thunder are thoroughly in the driver's seat of this series.
Okay, so in other words, you don't feel, to use the term that you used last episode, you don't feel that there's a pathway, that Doctor Strange route for Indiana to win the series other than some, I don't know, it's just some massive craziness.
No, it's genuinely like the team of destiny is the path. Like, there has to be some kind of power that is pushing the Pacers forward to pull a miracle out of a hat. I don't know if you pull miracles out of the hat. Maybe the bunny itself is the miracle, crossing some metaphors here. But I think that is the only Doctor Strange one way through this series, is for them to pull multiple rabbits out of multiple hats.
Okay, that's really interesting, because there was a moment in the first quarter of game two where I saw a much clearer pathway for Indiana than even I felt in game one, because I feel like, and I think you're saying this, in game one, like, doing that 4 times is not sustainable. It's just like, I don't know how you do that 4 times. I think you can get probably another game. I mean, you're going to have home court. We'll talk about it in a bit. You can make some adjustments. Guys have off nights. Oklahoma City, we know, is not always going to shoot 38% on their 30 or 40 three-point attempts that they generate, and that adds some swinginess and some variance to the game. I mean, those things are there, but there's a difference between 1 or 2 wins and 4 wins that way, especially against a defense. And I think that's something we forget sometimes, because how many of our legendary champions recently have had this like historically great defense. I mean, the 2022 Warriors were really good defense when they were healthy, but I don't know if the public fully sort of felt that way when they watched them, because they have Steph Curry and their movement and their motion, and even contributions from Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green as like a small ball center but playing point guard. Those are the things that jumped out. The Bucks were a great defense, right? But that was a weird season. That was like bubble adjacent, and everyone was getting injured and grimy, and it doesn't register the same way. The Lakers in 2020 were a great defense with Anthony Davis, but again, you're looking at like the LeBron James, or why is AD going off for 40 in the bubble kind of thing. So the whole point of what I'm saying is like that stranglehold that a great defense can put on you, like a historically great defense, acts as a ballast. It acts as a balancing force that you can always fall back on, right? There's a lot less variance in that, because the Thunder, part of what makes them so great is they're so coordinated. They're so buttoned up. They don't make a lot of errors. They don't have matchup issues where you're calling timeout and you're like, you're at the wrong level of the screen and we got to do this and we got to do that. And so it's just like, yeah, sometimes they'll go cold. Sometimes a team will play great. They'll find something against them. But over the course of a 7-game series, for me, I want to see a better way to crack through the armor versus, hey, we hit 7 straight banked threes and now we won the game.
I think, honestly, even because I think people often fall back on when they're talking about a champion, they're like, oh, they had the 2 top 10 players, a top 10 player, a top 15 player, whatever else. But I think actually most of the winners recently have been excellent defenses. Like even the Celtics that just won last year, excellent defense. And I the numbers weren't historically great, but you look at the personnel and the flexibility and the stuff they could do. I would consider them to be a historically great type of defense. The 2019 Raptors, right? Like they were built to take out the Bucks. They had amazing personnel going on there. And then the Warriors, of course, like they had Kevin Durant and all that stuff, but that's prime Draymond Green. They were flying around the court all over the place. So even them, they had a great defense. So I think it's difficult to win a championship without having that great defense, even if you have like a top 10 or 2 top 15 types of guys.
I guess part of what I was saying also requires you to sort of be a juggernaut, because we listed some of those champs, but when I think of the teams that move into the culture and the teams that are historically dominant, the Curry Warriors, the Golden State teams that added Kevin Durant, the Heatles briefly with LeBron James, some of the Lakers in the 2000s, the Spurs, you could argue, got there, but people didn't necessarily think of the Spurs that way. And also I think statistically, the Spurs were always better in the regular season versus the playoffs. So it's just, my point is, it's just been a really long time since we've had a team at that level, unless I'm totally forgetting someone, like the 2008 Celtics. That's actually probably the connector to me, right? It's been 17 years, but the 2008 Celtics had that, where they were so much better than everyone else in the regular season, and that defense was so good and kind of ahead of some of the offenses, if you will, that when you got into really weird situations in the playoffs, and the first 2 rounds were as bumpy as humanly could be for a team of that stature, it's like, yeah, but the defense is pretty much always just going to be something we can fall back on. And I think OKC has that.
I think, too, what's interesting about the 2008 Celtics connection, just relax, everyone. I'm going to bring out the Bucks for a second. But 2020 pre-bubble, like historic, like 8 points better than league average sort of defense, right? Like that defensive scheme was unbelievable. They were right up there with some of the best defenses ever. Of course, there's a lot of other factors that go into it with the bubble, COVID, all of that other kind of stuff. But I think a key part about that Bucks defense is that prior to like Drew Holiday and whatever else, they couldn't translate the defensive intensity to the playoffs quite like they were able to in the regular season. Whereas like the 2008 Celtics, and now that we're seeing with the 2025 Thunder, what they had works really well against all kinds of different offenses, right? Like the Thunder have played a lot of different styles. Pacers do not play like the Nuggets, for instance, right? They have two very, very strong offensive players with a bunch of really good stuff going on. They do not look like the same two teams. Yet they can roll out their team and be like, all right, we're going to do this coverage. As you had in the video here, you have like the Anthony Edwards press conference where he's like, they're just puppets on a string just out there. That's exactly how they are. And it doesn't matter what offense they're playing. So they have that level, but that level is also like, to borrow your term, it's like portable. Like you can use it against any other kind of offense that's out there. And I think that's particularly what makes this defense special.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a great point. You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, if you're going to be in the GOAT conversation for defense and I think for offense, there has to be a resiliency to it. There has to be a versatility to it that on one hand, sometimes we look at a defense and we're like, wow, they got to really change the coverage against this opponent and they can do it. And we go, wow, that's so cool that Anthony Davis can do that. But the Thunder, it's like, these are all their coverages. This is just how they play. They just swarm and switch and everything's hybrid, zone and man turns into zone. Whether if they're small, they're doing the same thing. If they're big, they're essentially trying to do the same thing. They're just understanding that they have big people who are shot blockers that they might want to keep closer to the basket or something like that. So it's really, really fascinating. And I think important if you're going to be at that level to be able to just roll the ball out against any opponent and go, yeah, that doesn't really bother us that much. And of course, your point about the Bucks is in many ways the historical inverse of that, where you have a team that's great, but they're doing it in one way, and they were susceptible and vulnerable to certain attacks that could be like, can you handle this type of offense? Can you handle that type of offense? And Milwaukee, of course, couldn't always do that if they were simply in a double big drop kind of situation.
And something, too, that the Thunder have that other teams just don't. We've referenced this before, but I think you really see it now. And I think Game 2 illustrated it really clearly, is that you roll out the bench lineup, and all of a sudden you're getting almost better defenders. Like Alex Caruso comes in, and they're like, oh, no, maybe the best perimeter defender they have. Sorry, they're all really close. Lou Dort might actually be the best one, but Caruso comes in. He's no slouch. Like, he's out there just blowing everything up. But something that happens between Game 1 and Game 2, and I think you talk about it a little bit in the video, Game 1 happens. And there was a moment where
did Game 1 happen between Game 1 and Game 2?
I don't know what I said. so there's Game 1. There's me considering Game 1, Game 2. Go back to Game 1. It's all just a linear plot. You just got to follow it, right? Got to follow the breadcrumbs. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, what happens?
Sorry, I did that too. Sorry.
Is that the bench mobs going against each other in Game 1, right? Like the beginning of the second quarter. Shea goes to the bench. He's sitting on the bench for a few minutes here. And this isn't where the Pacers made a run, but TJ McConnell, he comes in and he's getting into the paint. He's mixing the drink around. He's hitting some of his little pull-up mid shots. And the Thunder are like, oh my God, what are we going to do about it? Isaiah Joe, stop him. And Isaiah Joe is not able to stop him. Game 2 comes around and they're like, no, Caruso, shut him down. Like Tony Kukoc in the 92 Olympics, like Jordan, Scottie Pippen on him, like Caruso, you're shutting it down TJ McConnell. You did. Like, I don't know if McConnell touched the paint in those minutes, and the Thunder were able to make a huge run at that point. So even the bench mob aspect of how good their defense is just like nothing we've ever seen.
Yeah, and they actually made a little bit of an adjustment. That's a great call on your part, because they realized, like, okay, we just need to go way under every TJ McConnell screen, and we need to be ready for these kind of old school Phoenix Suns hurry up pistol, quote unquote, pistol actions coming up the sideline, getting that guard to guard screening action that they love. And the Thunder are like, well, if we're back in transition and we're matched up, we can either switch that and have a speedy guard stay with TJ, or when he's setting guards with bigger players, we can just sag way under. And that, I thought, just really destroyed the TJ McConnell minutes in the first half. Like, it was one of the first things I wrote down. I think I messaged you guys in the group. I was just like, these minutes are a real problem. And you look up at, when was it, halftime or something? I checked at some point and they were way behind, but Tyrese Halliburton's plus minus was like -4 because they lost his minutes a little bit, but in the handful of minutes he sat, that Pacers offense could get nothing going. And then Indiana made an adjustment, I thought, in the second half by realizing, like, well, we can set the screens much, much lower, which is an old school counter. If you're going under screens, just set the screen at like 14 feet. And so they got a little better process from TJ McConnell in the second half minutes that he came in. But Cody, I think it's such a great point because it's the depth thing we've talked about. And if you're going to have a great defense today, you don't want to be putting players on the court that create vulnerabilities or change what you do. And in the case of the Thunder with Caruso, especially now that they're starting Case and Wallace, if Case and Wallace comes off the bench as well, I mean, it's like sometimes these guys are better in the matchup in the series that they want. In fact, something that I've been thinking about, and certainly a question we've gotten before, and I think a question from the audience that we just got again, is who is like the best of the Thunder defender? I mean, is it truly an ensemble cast, or do you have some clarity in your mind? I have a couple different ways to look at this myself, but when you have this many good defenders that are in many ways this different, I actually think their best defenders are all very different, which makes it hard to do the comparison to some degree.
I'm gonna run through some names and just kind of talk. Maybe we can bat around their case or whatever else. Because I think about Chet right away. Because often people go back to the rim protector and they're like, "Oh, the rim protector is the most important." He has that tremendous block. I think it's against the Toppin, like underhand floater, like old school scoop, and Chet's like, "Get this out of here!" Right? So he's a tremendous rim protector. But like, I wonder if you could replace him and not hurt their defense so much. So my first thought is Chet, one of the best rim protectors in the league, but I don't think he has true candidacy for most important defender on the team.
Oh, okay. Well, most important and best are different. Most important and best are different. Yeah, I think that's
which one do you want to talk about?
Have we done most important before? I feel like in the middle of the season we had this conversation, and you and I both kind of in the middle of the season thought it was Jalen Williams, J-Dub.
Yep.
For his versatility. But then the question becomes, if you put these guys on other teams around the league, you know, who might emerge as a defensive player of the year candidate? Who would emerge as a first team all NBA player, first team all defensive player, that kind of thing. Chet is very compelling for me because his rim protection, but also he's pretty versatile. Like he's more mobile than you think. He's smart. I think some of the weaknesses are, of course, his strength, his physical strength. So he's susceptible to some of the stronger matchups that you can encounter, like we saw in the Denver series. That also impacts defensive rebounding. But I think I mean, if I don't remember in the Thinkies, but he pretty much always, like, I shouldn't say always because it's only his second year, but I think he's in our top 6 or 8 or something, like, right? Can you name 10 better sort of paint protectors in that mold than him? I know his data and his numbers are just ridiculous in his career for shots contested around the basket. And I think when we do that thing where we look at what happens to the team's rim protection when he's on the court versus off the court, it's not insanely amazing. It's not like mind-blowing, but it is very good. So I think he's really good. Yeah.
Oh, he's absolutely really good. So I think if the conversation is like, who could you throw on different teams and improve the defense the most, he might be the answer. But I think in the context of what the Thunder run, like they can go to their micro ball lineup and someone could make the argument that that's their most flexible and maybe best defensive lineup when there's basically no bigs out there. And if you can do that without like your rim protector, then maybe he's not the most important.
Well, I think it depends on the opponent, because over the course of the season, they were clearly a better defense or a more well-rounded defense when they had at least one of the bigs as a rim protector. That's the thing that's so crazy about this team. And we talked about it before. Like Hartenstein's like, I don't know, what is he, like their 5th best defender? Their 6th. He's a really good defender. Yeah. So this is what makes it interesting to me. There's that angle. And then you can also frame the conversation slightly differently. You've talked about it as who's their most important defender. I think there's another angle, which is Caruso might be the most valuable defender per possession. But between his offense and his fouling and his aggression and his motor, he is never going to be a player that plays like 38 or 40 minutes regularly in a game. In fact, sometimes you look at Caruso and it feels like he was out there the whole game, and you look at the box score and you're like, he played a ton, 25 minutes and 41 seconds. What? But per possession, he's probably their best defender. I mean, per possession, don't you think Caruso stacks up with some of the great sort of perimeter impact defenders that we've seen in the last 30 or 40 years?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. And I might build this up to a bigger question in just a second, but I don't know about you. I've come away just unbelievably impressed with Alex Caruso throughout these playoffs. And I know he was on the championship run in 2020, and we know he's been a great role player, but my goodness, like this dude is doing everything out there. And honestly, like, I don't know if this is like hyperbolic at some point. Everyone's talking about how great Jokic and Shea are and whatever else. I think it's time to step aside and talk about some other all-time lists, Ben. Are we getting to a point, and I don't want to night this before the season is completely over, but like, can we start talking about Alex Caruso as one of the all-time role players? Like, if you were to make a pantheon of the role players, like Alex Caruso like, deserves to have a conversation to be in that room, right?
Is this one of those 6-man things that's going to drive me nuts where it's like a backhanded compliment because if you're too good, then you're not a role player?
So, okay, I don't think it's a backhanded compliment. I was thinking about role players for a second, okay? Because, I think of role players, Alex Caruso, Danny Green is, of course, in this conversation, guys like that. And I was just thinking, like, okay, let's say I'm in charge, Ben, of making the next Olympic team, right? And let's pretend the Olympics are today. And I have to pick 12 NBA players to go out there. Am I sure that I wouldn't reserve one spot for somebody like Alex Caruso? Like, shouldn't you slot maybe 2 or 3? Like, you have 12 spots, right? You can take the best players in the world. You can take whoever you want. But maybe you should take like 2 or 3 slots and actually take role players and put them in there. Because the idea of a role player, I think what gets lost here is people are just like, oh, role players are just like regular players, but they just play fewer minutes. It's like, no, the point of a role player is that they have a particular role that they are better at than anybody else. They play defense better than everyone else. They shoot better than everyone else, et cetera, et cetera. They just have some other areas that don't let them play more minutes. So if that's the case, like if no one's going to go in there and defend like Alex Caruso and just materialize at the basket for a cut like Alex Caruso and shoot 40% from 3 on 9 3-point attempts per 100 possessions like Alex Caruso, then why not just pick Alex Caruso as one of the spots, Ben?
Okay. Oh, there's a lot there. You're getting warmed up. I love it. All right. So I just think I'm trying to simplify this and not take us too off track for an entire episode because I know you want to probably go deeper on this in the summer.
Okay.
Do you have in your head some specific criteria that would allow us to discuss these role players without getting into the slippery slope of like, oh, he's too good to qualify? Like Robert Horry is actually really good, so he can't be a role player. So I guess my question to you would be, is Ben Wallace a role player?
Oh, wow. I think, okay, in the context of the Pistons, Ben Wallace is not a role player.
What team would 4-time defensive player of the year, like, would he not start on certain teams? It's hard to swallow, right?
No, so I think what I would have to think as a role player is like, they probably aren't actually great for you if they're playing like 35 minutes a game.
Okay.
Yeah, like there needs to be like, hey, you're going to come in for like these 20 to maybe 25 minutes and just do your thing and you're going to do better than everyone else, but we can't extend you because of whatever reasons might be the case, which I guess it's kind of cheating because I think Danny Green played a ton of minutes on all of these.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ben.
Great role play. Didn't Robert Horry play 40 minutes a game? I mean,
yeah.
But again, I don't know where the line is. The reason I'm asking, and we can get back to the Thunder here. The reason I'm asking is because anytime these things are brought up, I immediately go to the best of that class, which to me is then like, well, I mean, Ben Wallace, he's a star. 2022, Draymond Green, is he a role player or he's a star? He like runs the offense and he's the defensive player of the year. He's a massive, like, I don't remember where we had him, if we had him in the top 10 or he's certainly a candidate. He was a top 20 player because your value is massive. It's the Ben Wallace thing. It's the Dikembe Mutombo thing, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's what you have to figure out between now and the summer. Or as you might say, between now and now, the Thunder. Let's get back to the Thunder.
Can I just jump in just really quickly? I have a thought, and my thoughts just don't last very long. So it's like I just need to unleash it right now. This might actually qualify Ben Wallace for it, and I feel like it's actually gonna get a lot of big men in that I don't necessarily want to. But I think a role player, just like if you take like a pie chart, right? And each player gets like a slice of the pie. A role player takes a very small slice of the pie, but just like amplifies it and gets a ton of value out of that little slice. And you can't give them more. If you give them 2 or 3 pieces, like it just reduces how much of their effect is. But in this little slot, nobody gives you more value in just that little bit than these guys.
Do you mean offense? The offensive pie? The offensive load?
I know that's the thing. In my head, yes, like maybe that works for perimeter guys, but I think then it gets stickier. I think you almost need to have like a big and like a littles.
You got to sort that. You got to go meditate on this and sort it out. Yeah. So the Thunder, and some might be thinking, you know, what is the difference between like the best defender? We're talking about Chet Holmgren in a vacuum or something like that. The best defender would be across different situations you put them in, they have the highest value. The most valuable defender, or as Cody was saying earlier, the most important defender would be in this specific situation. What really drives, like what drives the value on that team? That team desperately needs X to maximize its value. And that's where I think Jalen Williams becomes interesting for two reasons. One, he's crazy versatile, like guards all five positions up and down, does whatever you want. He's a little weaker on a quicker point of attack defender, but you can switch and match him up there. Big forwards and wings and all the two-way guys and great scorers and point of attack, bigger point of attack initiators that we've talked about before. He'll cover them. You need him to play center in a small ball lineup. He'll do that. And I think the other thing with Jalen Williams is he's able to do that and have success with that style for basically 40 minutes in a key game. And so the totality of that, you know, he has an argument for being their most valuable defender. And then we haven't even gotten to Casey Wallace, who's going to be the best defender of them all.
I don't think we even mentioned Dort either, who's just like,
well,
wall.
Yeah, he's a specialist. You know, he's matured. He's a matured asset. Yeah,
Lou Dort is just a brick wall that's literally being pulled on a string. Like you just can't get by. It's just being pulled back and forth. It's like a little pong thing, like bonk, like you can't get past him. Did J-Dub win most versatile defender in our thinkies this year?
I don't know. Okay. I don't remember that.
Or best help?
As I was telling you, I had some technical issues with my computer, and normally I would be able to access that information, but it's completely gone right now. Yeah, I have no idea.
And I think we've seen it throughout the playoffs. Like, you know, J-Dub, I think especially earlier in the playoffs, had a few duds. He had hit a few dubs, I guess one could say.
On the offense.
On the offensive end.
Yeah, but in those...
no, that's my point, is in those games, he's still... I think one of the games he had this ridiculous block. I don't even remember what series is this, but he's this ridiculous block, and I think that game he sucked. Just to go blunt about it.
Well, yeah, I think he said afterward, like, his offense was horrible that game, but that might have been the game in the Denver series where in the first, 5 minutes, he had, 6 unbelievable defensive plays in the first 5 minutes. So, yeah he's really, we've talked about this. He's improved defensively. He's incredible. Have I done the rant about how Michael Jordan, people were like, Michael Jordan gets star treatment from the refs? Have I done that rant before?
I said some nonsense about role players, so you can do whatever you want for a few minutes.
Well, you were talking about Lou Dort being a brick wall, and we've been talking about Caruso, and of course, this to me is clearly, unequivocally, one of the greatest defenses of all time, and yet I still see a lot of pushback from people on the interwebs. I don't know what's going on with people on the interwebs these days, where they're like, no, just you cool it with the talk of them being a good defense. Like, what are you, that's insane. That's that's not even like, we can't even be nice about that, Cody. That's just crazy talk. But the other thing, of course, that you see everywhere is people are like, oh, the Thunder have their own special set of rules, as if the NBA was sitting around in Secaucus one day and they were like, you know what we got to do? We got to get that 139th biggest market in Oklahoma City. You know, we got to pump them up with their own special rules. And I say that to say that I think it is very, very lazy to come to that conclusion. I actually think it's literally wrong, as someone who has slowed down from multiple angles, like probably over 2,000 Oklahoma City controversial defensive plays this year. It does an incredible disservice. You're blinding yourself from one of the most amazing teams. And why do you think everyone else in the league, the coaches and everyone is like, I don't know how they do that. That's insane. Like the Pacers in the press conference after the game were like, yeah, I don't know. We need to get to that level because that level is just unbelievable. Seeing it in person. Also, I've seen them a couple times this year in person, and it's just like, I don't know what's more amazing, slowing it down on film like we do in our breakdowns, or watching it in person where, to the Anthony Edwards quote, it really just does feel like there's like 6 or 7 players materializing at all times. And it's only when you rewind or notice closely that like, oh, that's because the positioning was this way, the scheme was this way. They did a triple switch behind the play that no one noticed because they're all 5 players are all coordinated. And it's one of the most beautiful, incredible basketball things we've seen. And to reduce it to they get away with fouling it's not only is it nonsensical, but the reason I wanted to do the rant, Cody, and asked you about Jordan is because there's always been this thing with successful players or successful teams that they get star treatment or special calls. But if we pull up a random Michael Jordan game from the 90s, you might see, of course I've done this. I've watched a lot of old games since having this podcast. You might see a call or two that you're like, no one else in the game got that call. The crowd got a little upset. Okay, that seemed like it might have been like maybe a little bit of a star call. I feel the same way about the Thunder in that in 5 years, when we go back and watch these games, it's going to be very hard for me to understand where in a situation that's more than like a player to, it's the same thing with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He does some of his nonsense, right, with the hooking and things like that. But take game 2. Did he have a single controversial call in game 2?
I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I think there was one where the broadcast crew was like, he tried to get a foul there and he didn't, and it ended up being like a turnover. So I think that's really the only time I can think about where anything like that might have happened. You said a lot of things, and I want to try and respond to all of them, because
you told me that I was allowed to go on the rant, and I got a little. I'm going to plug myself back in and recharge. Sorry,
I'm not admonishing you. You know, I'm actually thanking you for providing me the buffet. Right? No one walks into a buffet and you're like, "Give me one option. I just want one pizza ranch." Like that's not what people do. That's the
Pizza Ranch. What kind of buffets are you going to? Pizza Ranch.
I've actually never been to a Pizza Ranch. I was side tour here. I was going to go to like a 3-year-old's birthday party at a Pizza Ranch. Wait. And I was this is a place. It's a real place. It's a real place.
What is a Pizza Ranch?
So I think you show up and it's like buffets of different kinds of pizza, and there's like dessert pizzas and whatever else. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But Ben, this 3-year-old's party got moved somewhere else, and I had to not go to Pizza Ranch. So I have yet to set foot in one right now, and it's very sad.
Okay, you're gonna forget what I said, so quick.
But who are you? What?
Yeah, we're doing a podcast.
So we were talking about this is actually not a bit, I swear. So the point I was going to bring up, the first point I was going to bring up, because I started writing some things down. Anthony Edwards is not somebody that let's say he censors himself in front of the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he speaks whatever's on his mind, right? And he's called out Shai. Like, he has a press conference where he's like, I'm sick of this guy's flopping, right? But in that press conference after the Thunder beat them, he wasn't up there with Mike Conley saying like, yeah, they hack us all the time. Yeah, they're too handsy. Yeah, the rest get them. No, he says they're on a string. They're just plugged in. They're doing all of these different coverages. Like, that's the kind of thing he's shouting out. And this is somebody that I think would have like said something if he was angry about
it. Chris Finch and some of the other Timberwolves, I think it did get under their skin, but I also think that's the difference in makeup or fortitude. You play a team that is that good, that is that swarming, that has that, you've never seen anything like it. You've never seen anything like it. So again, going back to slowing down the film, let's say there's 10 steals in a game that you look at. 8 or 9 of them are clean, but on more than 1 or 2, the players are like, they're doing the yelling with the hands going everywhere, and they're looking at the refs. And Cody, I think, and I don't even blame these guys sometimes, although I think we should get rid of flopping and yelling and one and all, we should get rid of it all. But I love sounding like an old man yelling at the clouds. We should get those kids to play straight. What I think is they're surprised that someone stripped the ball out of nowhere. Like, when Shai rips Halliburton from behind in both game 1 and game 2, not only does Tyrese probably not expect him to be there, but as a viewer, you're like, what the heck? Where did that come from? There are 2 more turnovers in that game that I think look very atypical, that are just like peak Thunder turnovers. One is Halliburton, we have it in the video. Cason Wallace switches back across a flare screen to Halliburton. Isaiah Hartenstein was there. Halliburton drives right down the lane. And in the main camera angle, you can't tell what happened. But when you access a different camera angle, Halliburton was going so fast, he fumbled the ball. No one stripped the ball. And it wasn't like contact. It wasn't like he got hit or there wasn't a reach. He just was like, I got to get in the paint. What's happening? Am I going to jump pass? Boom, he fumbles the ball. And I just don't think that happens against most other teams. So as a fan and as a player, you start to get tilted. You start to get thrown off your axis and you buy into this. Another one we have in the video is there's a steal, and this happens in like once every 2 or 3 Thunder games. There's a steal and you can't tell who stole it at full speed. And the broadcaster will always say the wrong name. And I think as a player, that must be so disorienting to feel some kind of contact on your hand, on your wrist, if it's a foul, if it's not a foul, the ball, what the hell just happened? Someone's on my shoulder as I'm driving. It was Lou Dort, and I'm trying to remember, it might have been Halliburton. Someone was driving down the right side of the lane, and Lou Dort just came by chasing his man and just stuck his like 6'10" arm out, hit the ball, and in real time, you don't even notice who stole the ball. And I think that is what creates this sort of idea that, you know, they get away with a lot or they foul a lot or things like, and by the way, we've talked about this before. We did a whole segment on this. They do foul a lot. They are at the top of the league in fouling. Alex Caruso fouls like a maniac and gets called for it. So yeah. Do you have more that you wrote down?
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you brought up Michael Jordan in this case, because I think there is like a clear line between what we're talking about and somebody like Michael Jordan and, you know, by extension, Dwayne Wade and all these other kinds of guys, Allen Iverson. When you push the subject, right, like there's just going to be more calls for you, right? Like Michael Jordan got a lot of calls because he was the best at just getting by people and getting to the paint and flying in the air at them.
Because he's hard to defend, right?
Yeah, like
okay.
BJ Armstrong isn't just blowing by guys 15 times a game, and it's like, why isn't BJ Armstrong shooting 15 free throws a game?
So I was thinking about this with Shea after game 2, because do you remember the play where he takes a kind of sidestep jumper on the baseline? I believe Ben Mathurin is guarding him, and it's a pull-up jumper. He misses, and they show the eye in the sky God cam, you know, the 180 frames per second, the LeBron fouling Anthony Edwards cam, and Ben Mathurin slaps and hits him right on the elbow. Do you remember that play?
I don't know.
Okay. In real time, you're just like, what is that call? And then they show it again, and you go, oh, Ben Mathurin, what are you doing? And the answer is, and this is not to be mean to Ben Mathurin, because I don't think he really did anything that most of us wouldn't do. The answer is he was freaking out about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's mid-range shot. And the reason he was freaking out about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's mid-range shot is because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is playing basketball at a level that very few people have ever played. And so again, to reduce that to the 2 or 3 times a game at most that he gets some silliness from the officials that maybe we want to go another way, maybe we could nitpick, whatever, but it's like 35 points a game, 9 assists, all these other plays that he's setting up. That's like 25 plays. If I can make a highlight video and I can get you 23 of the 25 plays without 2 silly fouls, why are we reducing this player to the 2 silly fouls? And to your point, Cody, they're defending like that, and they're so freaked out because he's done something that I'm not sure anyone else in the modern game has done. And I want your take on this. He's using the mid-range the way people like use layups, right? Defenses, when we're talking about how defenses in this playoff run are defending Shai, and you outed me last week for how upset I was about Minnesota, right? What they're doing is defenses feel really good because they've got a guy under the rim, and they've got a guy on the left block, and they've got a guy on the right block, and they go, aha, Shai, we've got you covered. If you want to isolate, we've got you covered the way we want, right? I don't know why they turned into 30s gangsters or whatever when they did that, right? But you know what I'm saying. The way a coach would draw something up as you defend Shai in isolation, go back to 2010, you were talking about it the other day. Ray Allen is guarding Kobe Bryant, and he's 18 feet away at the top of the key in that Dirk Nowitzki nail spot, Dirk Nowitzki for the Mavs. And the defense is like, oh, this is so exciting. We're going to load up on the driving gap in his left, on the driving gap in his right, and we're going to force him into a mid-ranger. And when you defend Shai like that, I know the numbers are only like 50-something% or whatever it is, but it's like 90%. I don't know how to explain it. It's ridiculous how good he is at scoring without going all the way to the basket. And that's the paradigm that he's changing. I can't remember another player doing this, even players that have success in the mid-range. It's just like, you need to bring those defenders from under the basket out 10 more feet, or else it's too easy for him to get to one of his pull-ups at the elbows.
Isn't the best comparison actually Dirk? like you brought up, because Dirk,
I think it's a great comparison. Yeah.
When he was younger, he was quite a bit more spry and he was blowing by guys and throwing it down and stuff. But you go later into his playoff runs, like especially that 2011 playoff run, he's generating absurd free throw numbers. And it's not because he's charging to the rim. It's because his free throw, his mid-range was automatic and unguardable. And if you weren't literally following him, he was going to make the shot. So I think it's that sort of thing where you have to change literally how you think about defending the basket when he has the ball. And the thing about Shea, like Dirk operated at the elbow, right? Like you threw it down to him and he did his work with his fade and whatever else. Shea, he's dancing on you. Like if you get Shea to dribble up on you and then he steps back and there's like 2 feet of space, it's over. Like the possession you lost the possession if Shea is able to walk into that position. So he's getting at that point from a place of momentum, which I think, to your point, is something we've basically never seen before at this efficiency.
Yeah, I think it's a paradigm shifter, and it's just so funny to watch because the way that teams, like we had some videos in 2022, your Celtics team that came out of nowhere and made it to the NBA Finals, and that was another great defense. And in the first round, they played the Nets, who were the favorite to win the title in the preseason, by the way. And I think at a certain point in the regular season as well. And we had this content of like, oh, wow, look at how well the Celtics are jamming Kevin Durant, pushing him off his spots, pushing him out to 18 or 20 feet instead of 14 feet on the catch, and then loading up behind the ball at the basket. So he's kind of afraid to drive. So the offense that he has to settle into is, I'm going to put it on the deck for one dribble to the left, pull up over Jason Tatum from 17 feet. And I want to say Jason Tatum blocked 2 of his jumpers in that series outright, which is something we had almost never seen. And it's like, traditionally as a defense, you're feeling really good if you can clog up that layup area in that back line and force someone to take that shot. And yet when we're scouting, right, when we're deep diving these games and taking notes and putting together videos, you said it last time, we're like, you can't guard Shea Light. You can't sit back there and leave a guy on an island to guard Shea. And that's the paradigm shift. I hope it's coming through on radio. It's like there's a massive difference between guys being in that lower box near the basket and leaving him room to go in either direction. It's his zigzagging tendencies, his zigzagging style that's so unique. And it's like, if you don't have a defender on his left hand or his right hand, good luck guarding him, because he's just going to get to one of those mid-rangers. And what are the numbers on those shots, Cody? Whatever they are, they're a lie. The percentages are higher than what the stats say.
Well, the other issue is, you say he treats the mid-range like his layups. He also treats layups like layups. Like he just gets by people and finishes there. And I know this wasn't actually a layup, but the shot so far in this series, and I think it was in game 1. I think it was the game that they lost. The shot that's just blowing my mind every time I think it is Shea drives, and I think it's on Andrew Nembhard, and he steps, I think, on his ankle. Oh no, I think Nembhard maybe pulls the chair
and his ankle rolls.
Shea loses balance.
Yeah.
His ankle roll. It's like touching the ground, and he rises up and makes this layup. And like that is actually an impossible shot. Like we talk about the best players do impossible things. That is an impossible thing. And when they show the replay, like you don't fully appreciate it until, again, they have these magical cameras that zoom in on his ankle, just like going 90 degrees, and he still makes the shot. And so, I actually want to charitably bring up somebody that made me think for a second, because on one of the commenters at one point was like, hey, I appreciate you guys, but I almost feel like you're giving Shea too much leeway. Like it feels like in the context of this conversation that you're almost defending a guy that kind of foul hunts a little bit more. And you know what? I want to say, like, sure, maybe I'm pushing back, and I'm pushing back for a couple of reasons. Number one, because it feels like the talking point with Shea on the ground. When I talk to students all the time, first thing that comes up about Shea, he's a foul merchant. I listen to broadcasters talk about it. Foul merchant, foul. Like this is the narrative that's coming up here. And this is a guy that we're talking about. It's a paradigm shifting offensive player. He is leading the playoffs in box plus minus. He has overtaken Nikola Jokic and is leading the playoffs in box plus minus. In the last game, he dropped 30. I forgot what he had, like 34 points, maybe like 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 4 steals, something like that. If you reduce those numbers and you just look at players in the finals that scored 30 points, had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and had 4 steals, it's happened 12 times. 12 finals games ever, not 12 different players, 12 times it has happened, and Shea is one of them. So sure, like maybe I'm giving him a little bit of wiggle room, like you said, for these maybe 1, 2, 3 times where he's hunting a foul in there, because we're watching somebody that is just all-time unbelievable playing, and I want to sit and appreciate what's happening. So commenter, I appreciate what you're saying. I thought about it a lot, but this is why, because Shea is special, and I'm going to sit here and appreciate it as it's happening. You know
what bothers me a little bit?
What?
I'm glad you brought this up. We're spicy today. We're getting spicy. Yeah,
absolutely.
If anybody listened to us, we'd get aggregated. Shea, I do not like when Shea, colors outside the lines a little bit. I don't like it. I've of course been a vocal proponent of cleaning up some of these things in the game. And Shea has a little of that. And that's what's the big deal to me. He doesn't have a ton. It's insulting to me. I'm offended. It hurts my basketball soul to have gone through James Harden, to have gone through some of the other players that we went through that just individually were like, 4 steps are fine. I can use my arm to hit you in the face. If you touch me and I fall down, it's free throws. Even just things that seem sort of benign now, I think players got way more calls 3 years ago, before the points of emphasis changed, before that big video we did on the changing in the rules and stuff. Like, you would watch a Suns game. Cody, you might know this as a Bucks fan. Devin Booker would just dribble and fall down 18 feet from the hoop. 1, it shouldn't be a foul. 2, they give him free throws. I could never understand the logic behind this. I'm like, you're dribbling 18 feet away from the hoop. You're not shooting. You're not driving, but you get hit. And you do the kind of that we talked about earlier, and you throw the ball sideways out of bounds and you get free throws. That, to me, being prevalent everywhere and having multiple players be at a higher level, and then going to Shea, I'm like, we're going in the right direction. Okay, so I actually think him getting some level of criticism is good to continue to push this out of the game. But this is weird because, if anything, Shea does this less than he did last year, where he got a little insane with the off arm last year, and he's just a better player. So I would like to celebrate the fact that he's a better player and doing less of that, like less of his value is coming from that, but we're going in the opposite direction. So Cody, that's the end of my rant on this. And I want to get back to the data. Can I give you data?
Oh, give me data, please.
This man, between 7 and 18 feet on contested shots in the playoffs, is at 52%. And in the regular season, between 7 and 18 feet on contested shots, he was at 52%. That's not right.
That's really good. Is that, like, can you pull it by per 75 or per game or something? Like, how many of these kinds of shots is he getting?
He's got 150 in the playoffs, and he's played 18 playoff games or something like that. So that's just insane. That's my point. He's taking like eight a game. This is just crazy.
I just don't know anymore. Like, this guy is so good, and he's so fun to watch, and the layups he's able to get. Ben, I don't know if there's anyone that's better at just splitting hedges and blitzes. Like, I don't know if you should even try and blitz the guy on a pick and roll, because I swear every single time he's just pushing ahead and he's like, oops, there are actually no defenders here, and now I have a power play on this possession. He's unbelievable.
Okay, do we have other? We've gotten really off the rails. Do we have other stuff to talk about before we circle back and get ready for Game 3 and all that stuff?
Oh man,
wait! Isaiah Hartenstein.
Oh my goodness, you did it. We guys just end the pod now. We brought it up. That's the victory. Part of what I was going to say is that you said that the Pacers seemed to find some success maybe in attacking Hartenstein a little bit more. When you're attacking Troy, Ben, like, there's very few options for weak bricks, so you just got to pick one at some point.
I mean, it's like the Death Star. You just have to have the aesthetic design with a little 6x6 weak spot.
100%. Top Gun Maverick, the exact same thing. They're like, this little spot right here.
You can give spoilers for Star Wars, right? It's 50 years old.
Absolutely. They've done the Death Star thing like 7 times. Like, every single one of them is just like, oh, guess what? We have Death Star 2.0.
I could forgive them and have a lot of sort of childlike nostalgia about the second Death Star, but after that it just went downhill. It was just an absolute not a fan.
Yeah, I don't know if we're really getting too far afield, but the most recent like blockbuster movie, like episode 9.
This is the iHeart. This is what happened from bringing up iHeart.
He's the Death Star of this. Episode 9, whatever it's called, Rise of the Skywalkers, whatever. That was maybe my most disappointed like movie going experience in my life.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
I like to hear that.
Okay, Hartenstein.
Okay.
So weak point that the Pacers might be attacking, but it also feels like offensively, when I'm watching, it feels like he's one of their better passers, or at least one of their better ball movers in like running the pick and roll, getting the short roll, kicking it around and moving it. So do you think there's actually something where maybe even if he's being attacked a little bit more in defense, despite being a great defensive player, that the offensive trade-off is actually where the Thunder would want to put Hartenstein out there for?
Yeah, I mean, he's still good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like one of these series where you're putting a defensive specialist out there and the defensive specialist is getting cooked, and then you've got some weird thing with your lineup where you're like, are we going to bench Rudy Gobert? It's not that kind of thing, but it is the kind of thing where when you start to look at the process for Indiana that gets them more Indiana-like possessions, gets Halliburton a paint touch, something like that, it's often involving Hartenstein, who compared to these other defenders, and I think that's going back to our earlier conversation, that's where you have to give Chet some credit. Like, Chet's a little bit more mobile, a little bit faster. Like, that play where he gets back in transition is impressive, but Hartenstein's a really aware defender as well, and he's got some mobility as well. So, yeah, it's a weak spot based on the matchup. Let's put it that way. It's a defensive weak spot to pick at based on the matchup. I also thought that when they went double big in game 2, there might have been only one instance of this, but there was a moment where I instantly wrote down like, here's something you can work on. Basically, the Pacers ran enough screens to get Shea switched onto Halliburton, and then they put the double bigs in a staggered action. So you kind of had like all of the weaknesses / things that Oklahoma City wants to protect. And maybe, I don't know, if you're going to have a double big lineup and Shea is the third player, then you run out of all these magical defenders that you can put in there, right? Whereas when it's small ball or Chet's out there, it's just like a steady dose of Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, et cetera, et cetera. I thought that setup where they had the bigs and staggered screens and they could work it beforehand. You don't need to do it with staggered screens, but just work it to get like a certain matchup on ball and off ball as the screen defender. I thought that was a great possession. And on that particular possession, the reason why it works so well is Halliburton comes off the first pick. Shea got smashed by that screen. Now neither of the two bigs want to jump out and switch like they're Alex Caruso. So the two bigs themselves are like, I don't want to jump out and switch. Shea gets smashed on that first screen. Halliburton, wide open, soft pull-up three, swishes it. One of his only baskets in the first half. But I was like, okay, there's something there if there's double big. So I feel like the Pacers, they're such a great coaching staff. They have so many bright minds over there. They're such a connected team. The way they were talking in the press conference in game 2 was very much like, yeah, we have an idea of how to attack it, and we didn't do it very well tonight. And we're going to get the film and we're going to do it much better next time. Plus, home court advantage is a real thing because human beings going to human, you're going to have the crowd. The refs are going to all of a sudden be, isn't that what we learned from the bubble, that like 90% of home court advantage is just officials being subconsciously influenced by other humans yelling at them and telling them they're wrong.
It's hard to go against like tens of thousands of people yelling at you. Like,
yes.
I don't know.
Well, we do it every day on this podcast, but we don't miss a beat.
What do you think we're gonna see in game 3 for either side? And, can I answer my question? Can I make one? I'm gonna answer my question. I'm so excited about this, Ben. I can't believe we waited 54 minutes to bring up this guy's name. It is the rise of Aaron Wiggins time. Like, this guy, I think he has taken Isaiah Joe's minutes. He is just knocking down threes. He's playing defense. He's doing everything you need to do as a role player. I think it's his time to showcase himself, Ben.
Well, I mean, Aaron Wiggins saved basketball, Cody. Yeah. You didn't know that?
What?
Yeah, Aaron Wiggins saved basketball.
I mean, I believe it. I feel like I'm behind on some kind of inside joke that everyone on the planet is in on.
Yeah.
I just don't know. But I believe it. Aaron Wiggins has saved basketball in my soul, Ben.
He's a talented player. He's a talented player, yes. And I am very happy to see him move up the totem pole in the Oklahoma City rotation. And it looks like the Thunder pretty much have like what it's 8 players, the 8-man lineup. I've now lost track. They have so many good players. Hartenstein's coming off the bench, Caruso's coming off the bench, and Wiggins would be the 8th player. And I don't think there's anyone else that they really need to throw out there at this point in this series when push comes to shove and it gets really serious, right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah. Game 3, I'm really excited for game 3. I kind of feel, I don't know how you feel. Regardless of what happens the rest of the way, there was enough. Ooh, I should say another thing that's very nerdy and analytical before we lose it again and start talking about Death Stars and whatnot. The Pacers in the first quarter in game 2, man, that might have been the best defense I've ever seen them play.
The hands.
Oh man, they had like 20 possessions where the note I had, I was like, they kind of look like the Thunder.
Yes.
It was crazy what was going on in the first quarter. And they've always been a good defense since Andrew Nembhard came back and they had Miles Turner, and that started to change the season, picking up full court, getting more connected and togetherness. They've had a really good defensive year, even if by personnel and performance, they're not one of these inner circle juggernaut defenses like the Rockets and the Magic and the Thunder and yada, yada, yada. They're a very good defense. And sometimes in a series, we've seen this before, you can access a level that you've like never hit for a couple games. Mm-hmm. And it was in that moment in the first quarter where I was like, oh my goodness, if Indiana can have halves where they play defense like this for a couple more games in this series, that's the Doctor Strange pathway to winning, because we know that they can probably find ways to get some success against that Oklahoma City offense, plus the Oklahoma City three-point shooters, just the tendency sometimes to just take a lot of, and that's the way they're built, you know. Shea is Shea, and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, and even to some degree, Cason Wallace, have a few extra skills that go beyond just like spot up shooting or attack a closeout. This is maybe why you like Aaron Wiggins so much, because he, of course, also has a lot of these skills. But the rest of that Thunder team typically doesn't bring that. And so it's like, yeah, you can't blame Lou Dort for, I mean, I can blame Lou Dort for shooting too many threes, but he's not going to like drive and finish at the basket. So they end up taking 30 or 40 threes basically by default based on how you defend them. And that means on a bad shooting night, there's a window for the Pacers. And I just thought that defense that they were playing in the first quarter there, Cody, if they could harness that, if they could bottle that, if they could get that for 2 quarters or 3 quarters of a game, ooh, that changes the dynamic of the series, because now you don't need anything more than a 108 offensive rating or a 110 offensive rating to win.
I think asking for them to do that across, like you say, saw it in the first quarter, but they couldn't really sustain it beyond that. So I would need to see them string it together for the majority of a game before I'm going to be like, oh, I like this as an avenue going forward. Something I want to see, I don't know how they change it up, but I think you highlighted it in the video, is the fact that the Thunder's transition defense was so buttoned up, like they didn't allow any Pacers opportunities. I think this, to me, what stood out the most for this is that I just didn't feel Siakam like I've been feeling him throughout the entire playoffs. And Siakam he made like 8 free throws, right? He made 8 free throws, but I think he only made 1 shot. Like he has only 1 field goal make in game 2. And that was very strange because I'm so used to seeing Siakam leaking out or beating some guys down. Chet, I think in the first quarter, has an unbelievable defensive a pressure against him at the rim. I don't know if he blocks them or if he just makes it tough on him, but that's one thing, is I'm going to see how Siakam is able to adjust against the buttoned upness of the Thunder.
But they also couldn't get him the ball in the post very easily, which is the sort of the paradox of the Thunder when they go small. And it's another thing that I think drives fans crazy, right? They're like, I don't understand this. The way I want basketball to work for the team that I'm rooting for is that when there's a 6'9" guy in the post with a mouse in the house and he has a mismatch, you throw the ball into him and he dunks it on his head, and then we go, aha, you're too small. Like the Nuggets fans are still sending me nastygrams. They're like, aha, they're too small. They can't stop these big people. And it's like, okay, there's a different technique. You have to understand that getting the ball into the post nowadays in space as a second defender is there and as you're fronting the post is hard. And Cody, this is another part of my rant. This whole episode is just turning into a rant. I apologize.
No, he doesn't.
Small,
No, he doesn't.
Smaller players, we've talked about it before, always are going to get away with a little bit more. And to think that that is an Oklahoma City specific thing is just to tell on yourself that you don't watch other teams. Because, frankly, the Knicks were more physical with the Pacers than the Thunder have been in the first two games of this series. And we could argue by whether it's a good amount or what degree they were more physical. But like when Jalen Brunson is defending a switch in the post, Jalen Brunson, it's a blood sport. When Jalen Brunson's like, I'm not going down no matter what. I'm going to do anything it takes. I will pull your hair out. I will do anything it takes not to give up this catch. So for the Pacers, I totally agree. They have to find a way to get Siakam going. They have to be willing to maybe, and they do this naturally, don't always try to get the low post option if it's not there. Maybe you funnel out to 16 feet on the wing, you clear the side. They just have to be a little bit more deliberate and strategic about how they exploit those matchups. And then if Halliburton's not going to be able to get off, and I would be surprised if there's two more games in a row here at home where he can't find some avenues to attack. But then I think you have to empower Siakam a little bit more around the nail with some of these post-ups, initiating offense. The Pacers are so fun because they have so many different ways to attack. So what you could do, for instance, that we haven't seen at all, is you could start doing stuff like Siakam is the ball handler and the initiator, and you could use Halliburton as the screener. The Thunder are still going to switch that, but at least if you run that on an empty side, now all of a sudden, if you have like Case and Wallace on Halliburton, now you get your post up because Siakam gets the switch. He can just back down with the dribble from like 18 feet when they switch it. So there's still more cards that they have to play, and they're too creative of a coaching staff for me to try to sit up here and be prescriptive and be like, this is what I think they're going to do. It's just like, I kind of think they're going to do something, and I kind of think that something is, they're so magical. I think it's kind of going to be enough to get one of the next two games and send us back 2-2.
The Halliburton point, I'm trying to look really quickly through my notes here, but I don't think I'm going to be able to find it really quick. Oh yeah, I think it was in the fourth quarter. There was a sideline out of bounds play at the Pacers ran, and Halliburton gets an open dunk. There's some kind of, it feels like a screen the screener Spain pitch sort of situation.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It is Spain. And you're here's the problem, right? Your boy Aaron Wiggins probably just missed the coverage, right?
But I think that sort of stuff needs to happen earlier, because it felt like Halliburton got a little bit of ground and offensive consistency too late in the game. Like he was looking for that more. And I think there needs to be more targeted, like, hey, you get downhill or you look for your shot here at this point. Like you be a little bit selfish, like get yourself involved here. Because we saw it, like I said, a little too late in this game too.
How no one's listening anymore, so we can bring out the really good stuff. How good do you think Tyrese Halliburton is at feeling out and growing in a series? Because we've talked about this for so many players over the years, and I think it's maybe becoming a more prevalent thing in the modern game now with all the tactics and adjustments, where with someone like Shea, he's just really demonstrated, it just goes back to why criticizing Shea for the free throw thing is so nonsensical. He's demonstrated to me that he is elite at feeling out the way a defense plays him and understanding the tendencies and space and rhythm and strength of a defender and getting better attacking throughout the course of a series. I don't know what the numbers are, but it feels like he's just been better as every series progresses in this postseason. And with Halliburton, do you kind of get that same thing where it's like there's only so much you can hold him down? There's only so long you can hold him down because he's going to basically find his speed. He's going to find his pace and rhythm and understand when, okay, I come off this screen, I need to be looking to attack hard because that's what the defense is giving me, versus when I come off this screen, I need to be looking to shoot really quickly because there's a little extra cushion with this defender where I know he's actually not going to bother my shot. In game one, it might feel like he's going to bother my shot, but by game 3 or 4, I know like this is the window for me to shoot.
I think if you look at it across the entire playoffs, I don't think there doesn't seem to be like a coherent Halliburton's progressing more, regressing more, et cetera, et cetera.
It feels like he just goes up and down, right?
Exactly. And I think on the game level, that's something that he still struggles with, is establishing himself at some point in there, like really getting out there and feeling out what he's supposed to do. Like some games he's just hot, and then some games it almost takes him a little bit too long. And by the time it's like, oh, I found my footing, it's a little bit too late. Like I was thinking, I'm always thinking like all-time type of stuff for like how great players are. And Halliburton's a fantastic offensive player. And I think I sort of made a Steve Nash comparison before because they're so different in the styles that they play. And while Steve Nash, like especially in the regular season, his scoring numbers were were much lower than other MVPs you'd see Steve Nash just go into like killer scoring mode in the playoffs, where it's like, I'm just going to be the most efficient on-ball scorer in the league, and there is nothing you can do at any level here. And like that's something I just haven't seen Halliburton approach at this point.
Yeah. To support us, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. It's the best way to do it. We have extra content. We're going to try to get, I think, some more extra content on some of these finals players in the off days and things of that nature. I know we have something cooking about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and possibly Cody's favorite player of all time, Andrew Nembhard, coming up. Patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. You can also just get those videos alone on YouTube and watch along and be part of our audience as we live stream our podcast like this. Cody, now that we're in the post show, do you want to get really loopy and talk about other stuff?
Yeah. Do you have other stuff planned they want to say?
Can I say I have to go?
Let me add one Halliburton thing. I think I'm reading numbers right. I don't know. It's late and I don't know how this works. But according to Basketball References game log, Halliburton has not attempted a free throw in the finals yet.
Wait a second.
Yeah, double check this for me.
No, I'm not using the game log. I'm using the Ben memory index.
Okay.
I don't have any recollection of Halliburton shooting free throws at all.
No.
So therefore it must have happened.
Yeah. So Halliburton hasn't attempted a free throw. That's something to monitor.
I have a fun stat.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I have a fun. I did have.
I have another fun. Let's just share stats.
Okay. I was saving it. I have one fun stat.
Okay.
For players this year,
in
the playoffs and the regular season, who have trailed by 3 points, or why am I having a hard time saying this? 0 to 3 points. So either a tie game, or they're down by as many as 3 points. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tyrese Halliburton has the best effective field goal percentage in the NBA on these shots. Very rare, by the way. These shots are very rare. If we look at a leaderboard of players who have taken at least 13 of these shots, Jaden McDaniels is 5th in the league at 54% effective field goal percentage. And Jalen Brunson is 4th. He's taken 31 this year in the final 2 minutes. I forgot to mention that time caveat. It's the final 2 minutes of a game that's tied or you're down by as many as 3. Jalen Brunson has taken 31. He shot 55%. Jamal Murray has taken 13. He shot 62% effective field goal percentage. And in second place, Miles Bridges took 13, and he also shot the same as Jamal Murray, 62% effective field goal percentage. Would you like to guess who's first and what his numbers are?
I'm going to be honest with you. I know the answer, so I don't want to lie to the audience. I'll just let you share it.
Tyrese Halliburton has taken 17 of these shots in the regular season or the playoffs, and his effective field goal percentage is 94%. Cody, what's your stat?
That just doesn't even make sense. Like Reggie Miller looks at those numbers. He's like, man, I wish I was a clutch player.
Yeah, I think he's missed like 2. He's like 14 to 17 or something just ridiculous.
That's incredible. I love that. Can we end on asking you a very difficult trivia question?
Oh, I'm here for I thought we were going to play Guess That Number. I was so excited about it, but let's just do trivia. Yeah.
This is going to be a good one. Okay, so the Pacers right now, this series, I should say, the pace for this series is 99.8 according to Basketball Reference.
Yep.
Which is the second highest pace of any finals this century.
Okay.
What series this century do you think had a higher pace than 99.8?
What series this century had a higher pace than 99.8?
So I should say finals. A finals.
2017?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I was going to say, this is the tough one. That's unbelievable.
Let's go.
That's unbelievable. Can I ask? Okay, now we're going to go for the double or nothing here.
No, is this harder? I don't know if we can do harder.
I actually don't know what's hard. I thought the first one was the harder one, so we'll see. What series, which final series this century had the slowest pace?
Oh, that's such a gunky question, Cody.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a gunky question. All right. So I want to walk through my thought process briefly, and I'm not going to try to read your face for the answer. I won't even look at you while I do this.
I'm just going to smile.
Okay, because the original instinct is like an early 2000s dead ball series, but also it feels like it wouldn't be a Cody trivia question if there weren't a twist. So I'm going to give an answer that's not a dead ball series. If it is a dead ball series, then we can figure out which one it is from the early 2000s. But I'm going to go crazy and say the 2015 finals.
I love that. You did overthink the twistiness.
Okay.
I thought
it is a dead ball.
The twistiness I thought was going to be the one you got right.
Because I know the 2015 finals were way slower.
They were very slow.
Yeah.
There's a marked change when you get around like 2015, 2014. It drops considerably.
So is it
it is a dead ball.
Yeah, it's a dead ball series. Is it 04, 03?
No, 04 is in the right direction though.
Yeah.
So it's 2005 actually. Pistons Spurs.
Wow.
With
that's so interesting.
A pace of 81.8.
Yeah.
Ben, here's the crazy thing about that series. In game 4, the Pistons scored 102 points, and that is the only time either team broke 100 points in that entire series.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What would the internet have said about that series if it happened today? I don't want to know.
There's too much offense in this game. Richard Hamilton's conditioning is ruining everything.
We have anything else? Do you have any more stats?
No, that's it.
Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening as always on this one, and of course we hope you are having a great day.